Good morning and welcome to the Grenville Turner Studio at Cranfield University. I'm Janet Marshall, Cranfield's Apprenticeship and T-level Employer Lead, and we're here today as part of the Institute of Technical Skills and Strategy webinar series. We're here to talk to you about T-level industry placements at universities. I'll be joined on the sofa by Jo Hartley-Metcalfe from the Institute, and we'll be talking with Terry McGlenn, our Science T-level placement student, his student line manager, Hannah Charlotte, Jane Hubble, our Technicians Commitment Lead and Head of Technical Services for our School of Water, Energy and Environment, and Julie Jeffrey, our T-level partner from the MK College Group. So welcome to the event. For those who don't know Cranfield, I have a short video to show you just to show what a fantastic place Cranfield University is. Good morning, Jo. Welcome to Cranfield.
And thank you for inviting me to join you today at this superb studio. It's absolutely fantastic. I am Jo Hartley-Metcalfe, the university's T-level support manager for the UK Institute for Technical Skills and Strategy. We are supporting universities across England to host T-level industry placements. Offering placements are fantastic opportunities to increase the visibility of your technical workforce. They provide career development opportunities for your existing technical staff, and they'll ensure sustainability of the future workforce of technicians in HE and the research sector. With the introduction of T-levels qualifications, more young people are deciding at an early age that they want to follow in the footsteps of technical staff. And the reason for this is because they are excited at the prospect of getting to visibly see and experience what you, technicians and technical managers across research, do. These students are going to be your future employees, your future workforce, and you have the opportunity to impart your skills and knowledge on these students from a really early age and therefore shape the future workforce. So we're here today to discuss Cranfield's involvement with T-level industry placements. Thank you for those of you who have already sent questions. We tried to answer as many of those during this webinar. We also invite you to add any questions that you have throughout the webinar to the chat, which will be fantastic, and there'll be some time at the end to answer those questions. Any questions that remain unanswered, I will personally respond to after the event. We've produced a map, Janet, to show the interest in today's webinar. It's brilliant to see how the people who are here today, the delegates, are dispersed across the UK. There we go, we can see it up there. And it's so great to see everybody represented and the interest in T-level placements. So yeah, it's fantastic.
It is fantastic.
So to begin with, can you tell us why you decided to initiate hosting T-level placements?
Yes, of course. It's been great to host a T-level placement. It's something I've personally been quite interested in and watched the journey of how T-levels have developed. But for us as an organisation, it's really about that kind of valuable opportunity to get some technical skills for the future in and continue to bridge the technical skills gap that we've got and other universities have. It's also been great to get young people from around the local area involved in T-levels and working with us here at Cranfield, and that really feeds into our early career talent pipeline. Also supports our employer of choice part of our corporate plan, so it's really important to us that we're having people come in from that early career perspective. Really it's about nurturing those skills for the future.
Yeah, that definitely. What would you say are the key benefits to hosting T-level placements for the university?
So from the university, it's about building our strong connections with local colleges. Local colleges feed into some of our programmes, particularly in our MKU school, undergraduate degree apprenticeships. It develops our talent pool in our local area as well. And for us personally, it's about bringing those fresh perspectives, bringing those youthful perspective into the workplace and understanding that a university is a great place to work, and making the youth of today and school leavers really consider universities as a place to work and for their future careers. It also gives us a really good opportunity to develop our existing staff. I mean, I've learnt loads just by being the T-level lead and just understanding this new qualification and how it impacts on young people, but also it gives development opportunities to those staff that are working with and supporting that T-level placement.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more, especially with the promoting universities as a place to aspire to work. Having been a teacher of 16 years, I don't think I've ever come across a 16, 17-year-old that has said, I want to work at the local university, and not for any other reason than they don't see a university as a place of employment. They see it as a place to go and do a degree. So this is an opportunity to really make ourselves visible and to make our technical teams visible as well. So how did you find setting up the T-level placements in the first place?
It's a good question, because when I first dipped my toes into T-levels, I was quite astounded at how much easier they are than setting up an apprenticeship. Just one apprenticeship, you know, the rules and the regulations with apprenticeships are quite a lot. T-levels, it's actually the provider that has to deal with all of that side. So for us as an employer, it was incredibly easy. As we'll hear from Julie later, the MK College Group have been fantastic in supporting us as a provider. They've taken on the bulk of the organisation, and it's been a real delight to get involved in it, actually, because it's been quite easy. We've set the tone, we set the pace that we want to work with it. We set when we wanted to do the placement, and we just don't have all those rules and regulations. So it's really quite a simple, or I found it quite a simple task.
That's really good to hear. So I think this might be a good time to hear from Hannah, who has been managing and supervising Terry during his placement. Good morning, Hannah.
Morning, Hannah. I wanted to ask really what it's been like for you supervising a T-level student, because you're the first person that's managed a T-level student in the organisation, and how you went about deciding what activities Terry would take part in.
So it's not really like anything we've done before, so it's a fairly new experience for us, and especially for me personally. I've certainly enjoyed it as an experience as well. But there were quite a few unknowns, including the activities that he could take part in. But we just based them on low risk, easy to manage tasks that he could just do. Thank you.
And I imagine in a laboratory, some of the tasks that are available are quite risky. So that low risk is quite important, isn't it? Until I guess you saw the competence of Terry and what he was able to be able to do and do autonomously, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you encounter any challenges along the way?
Yeah, so similar to the activities that he could do, the safeguarding was probably one of our biggest challenges. But like I said, we sort of overcome that by just giving him low risk tasks that were easy to manage. And we found ways to overcome it as well.
Yeah, it's an area that I think we're all a bit nervous of, aren't we, with a young person in the workplace. What do you feel has really benefited your area? So you work in our laboratories. What's benefited the area, the people that you've worked with, but also how has it benefited you personally?
I mean, it's like Joey said, it's great to see young people getting involved in these kinds of things. And I think it's really important as well that people learn from a young age, the actual experience rather than just theoretical knowledge. So it's been quite rewarding for myself, certainly, and probably the Cranfield University as well. And it's also just been great having an extra pair of hands. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. When I hear from the technical staff themselves telling me how personally rewarding it is to have such a positive impact and, you know, launch that young person's career and give them something to add to their CV, I think that in itself is enough to make you want to get involved. So I've got a question for you, if that's okay. Would you do it again? And if so, what would you change?
I would certainly do it again, yes. It's difficult to answer what I would change, purely because the things that I would change we've sort of been developing as it's gone on. So a lot of the things I would change have kind of already been changed. For example, like Janet said, as Terry developed, we could give him different tasks based on his knowledge and experience. So yeah, it depends, I guess, on the student that you get.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you.
I think it'd be really good now to speak to Terry. So good morning, Terry. Thank you for joining us. Really great to see you today. And I really want to hear about your experiences that you've had at Cranfield. Obviously, we've connected as we've gone through, but I'd really like to hear from your perspective what it's been like being a T-level placement student at Cranfield, and also some of those things that you've been involved in and what you've learned along the way.
Well, during my placement at Cranfield, I've been given a wide variety of tasks to complete. It's been very fun. Some of the tasks I've been asked to do include dilutions with calculations, sample preparation, and calibration of equipment. And I wouldn't have been able to do this without the support of my manager, Hannah, and the rest of the technical team.
Fantastic. So have you enjoyed it? Have you enjoyed the placement here?
It's been one of the best decisions I've made.
Fantastic. That's really good to hear. What have you found most rewarding about the placement overall?
Most rewarding is putting all my theoretical knowledge into practice, because you could go through school and obviously have all the knowledge, but it's really boosted my confidence being able to put it into practice.
Brilliant. And I guess it's given you a really good insight into what the world of work is like, and particularly in a laboratory and university environment. Have you encountered any challenges though as a student?
Yes, I've had to wake up quite early to get here. So that's definitely been a challenge, and learning all the bus routes at the beginning.
Yeah. So good life skills you learn along the way, and that getting up early, I'm afraid, doesn't change as you get older. You still have to get up early for work. So yeah, that's been great. Thanks, Terry. Terry's working with MK College Group as a student, and we're delighted to be joined by Julie Jeffrey, the Head of Employee Engagement at MK. And Julie's actually worked with us to set up this placement in the first place.
Hi, Julie. Can I ask a question? Why is it important for you to work with employers to support the T-level placements?
I think all the students that are studying at T-level have to have an industry placement as part of the programme. And without that placement, they can't pass the qualification. But also, we are teaching them the theory and the academic part of the qualification, but they need that practical experience to really round off what they're learning.
Yeah, fantastic. And I suppose the more students that we can get through the doors to study these qualifications by having really great relationships, it means that we're growing our technical expertise and our future workforce, and then really boosting the economy in the future as well. What would you say to encourage more universities to offer placements and partner with local FE colleges?
I think it's a really good idea for us to get together. We all want the same thing. We're all giving people the opportunity to further their career and enhance their careers. If we work together as partners, we can, make sure that people have the right skills and get the right experiences. We can showcase things together. We can network together. The more links we have, the better understood it is by young people and other businesses in our local area.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's important as well, Julie, isn't it, that you really are a feeder for some of our programmes, particularly here at MKU and Cranfield University, but for the other universities that joined us today, the FE colleges, those level 3 qualifications really feed into things like degree apprenticeships or level 5 apprenticeships that universities are offering. So that partnering is really important, isn't it?
Yeah,
and I mean,
a lot of our T-level students will be hoping to go on to university once they've finished their qualification. Some want to go into just straight into employment. Some want to go on to higher level apprenticeships, but a lot of them are hoping to go into university. So it's almost like they've done an internship before they even get there.
Definitely. And I think universities just have such fantastic facilities, and, expose these to the local community, open your doors and allow them in to, to show off what it is you do, and the experts that are working in those labs as well.
Yeah.
So let's discuss some of the barriers and challenges then. So what are the main difficulties, Janet, that you've encountered when implementing a T-level placement?
Yeah. You think there'd be a lot, but there hasn't been that many. There's been a few minor challenges, I'd say, about university systems. It's not always easy to access university systems if you're not a student of the university or a staff member. And things like getting onto our intranet and making sure that Terry got set up with an email. Those sorts of things took a little while to kind of figure out, because Terry's neither a student at the university or an employee. But we managed it, and with the stakeholders across the university, they've all been really supportive, and we found ways to do that. The biggest difficulty and biggest challenge, and I think it's probably what everybody's most concerned about, is safeguarding. And it's not something to be scared of.
Yeah.
As long as we've got our safeguarding policies in place, we followed our safeguarding policy. I made sure our safeguarding lead was aware that Terry was going to be on site. We did that extra step. We did get Hannah DBS checked because Hannah was spending most of the time with Terry, but we didn't get the whole team done. We didn't feel that was necessary. We just made sure that we covered our safeguarding policy. And really, ultimately, it's down to the college to be responsible for that safeguarding, which when I found that out really took away that kind of worry that having a young person between 16 and 18 on campus, not in an employment capacity, had. So really the college were responsible. They took that away, and it's about keeping those lines of communication open, making sure that if we did have any issues, that the college were involved and that there was this real partnership going on between the student, the line manager, myself and the college. I don't know, Julie, if you want to add in anything there around the safeguarding side from the college perspective, just to kind of put people's fears of risk associated with that to one side.
Yeah, I mean, the college has their own safeguarding policy as well, to which all staff and students work with. So before we place any students in any environment, there will be a health and safety check. There are usually interviews done. There's a lot of work done with all the settings, including universities. And Terry will know where to go when he's in the workplace with you, and equally when he's in college.
Yeah, fantastic. And just in short, there is no legal obligation for staff to be DBS checked. However, if there is a particular care need or a substantial time working alone with a member of staff or an overnight stay, for example, then the provider can request a DBS check. And like you alluded to in your own policy, it was written in. So just be mindful, please check your own university policies with regards to working with under 18-year-olds, as it could be written in. But back to the very first line there is no legal requirement for a DBS check. So let's talk about how T-levels feed into your organisational strategy. So we've got Jane as the Technician Commitment Lead at Cranfield and Head of Technical Services. Welcome. I say welcome, it's really, you're welcoming me because I'm in your role. So what do you think T-level placements, why do you think T-level placements are important to the university?
I think in some ways we've already mentioned this, but I think it's worth mentioning again. Ensuring a succession of technical staff is absolutely critical to universities. And there has been, it's a recognised issue that we do have perhaps an ageing population of technical staff. And it's not always clear where the younger people are going to come in and grow up into those roles as our older colleagues start to think about retirement. So, universities, we don't only just teach and train the technicians for the wider world. We like to teach and train and retain technicians to work within our institutions. And because universities have research activities going on, and so you do need highly skilled technicians who can, deliver that research work right at the cutting edge of some of the techniques that we use across the UK. But also a lot of universities will have this strategic requirement. There's over 100 universities across the UK that signed up to the technician commitment. And part of that remit is to look at career development and sustainability of technical staff. So engaging with a T-level placement really does, key into this, because we can get people right at the start of their career and hopefully inspire them to come and work with us, or potentially to think about doing an apprenticeship or to think about technical careers out in the wider world. To me, it doesn't really matter where they go. It'd be lovely if they came and worked with us, but we can't employ everybody, unfortunately. But there is a big genuine need for technical staff across the UK and beyond. So there are lots of opportunities for technicians across the world. And absolutely, it's great to engage right at the early career part, and to offer people the opportunities to develop, and to maybe signpost where they can go, in the future after their T-level. Thank you.
Yeah, it certainly does feed into the technician commitment plan, as it definitely does increase the visibility and offer career development opportunities for technical staff. So thank you, Jane. So looking ahead, Janet, what are your future plans here at Cranfield for T-level placements?
Well, I'd like to say that we are hoping to have more T-level students, whether that's with Hannah and Jane in the labs, or whether that's in other areas like engineering or business admin. We're actually looking at the moment to have a media and broadcasting T-level student in this exact studio to really understand what it's like to work in this fantastic resource and with the amazing team that we have here. So that's our next goal. Excuse me. But really, we want to extend it across the university, because we can really see, as Jane says, it's about feeding that gap, feeding that skills gap that the UK has, not just Cranfield in terms of technical skills. And it's just a jolly good thing to do and support educational partners, and really does embrace what we value as Cranfield about building community. So we would really like to see more T-level students coming on board, and really, Terry's been fantastic. So it'd be great to get some more students having the experience of what it's like to work at Cranfield, work at a university, go through a meaningful work placement, but also have that opportunity to go through interview, go through assessment, really see what it's like to go through that employment start. So yeah, watch this space.
Yeah.
Let's see how we get on with
That
it.
is absolutely fantastic. And I think that just about sums up this part of the webinar. So thank you once again to Janet and all the team here at Cranfield for sharing your insights with us. It's really clear that the T-level placements have made a real positive impact, and being able to share that with the sector is just fantastic.
Yeah, well, we've got quite a few questions,
We
didn't
do.
we, previous to the session today, which was fantastic. So I'm going to go through a few of those, and then we're going to go through the ones that are on the chat. So first of all, I'm going to come to you, Joe. This is a question from Peter Crowther from the University of, Birmingham City University. Do all T-levels include an industry placement?
Yes, they do. All T-levels courses have an element of industry placement. So industry placements are a minimum of 315 hours, which can be approximately 45 days, a 9-week block period over the 2 years. The only exception is education and early years, which is about a 21-week placement if they're studying the early years occupational specialism. But that's the only exception to date.
Okay, fantastic. Tom Holmes, again from Birmingham City University. How can T-levels be applied to all roles across the university?
There are 20 T-level subjects and more coming from September that students can choose from, although it's really important to be mindful that not all providers and colleges and sixth forms offer all T-levels. So it's really important that you scope out what your local providers offer. And this is something that the Institute can help with as well by with contact through myself. We'll share the link at the end to the government website, where you can go and have a little browse of the T-level subjects. But for example, universities have many catering and hospitality outlets, and students studying catering and hospitality would be perfect on a placement there. There are multiple digital facilities within universities away from academia as well. So there are multiple IT departments which service the facilities, your computers, your monitors, your projectors. There's people designing web pages and social media. So this again would be perfect for a student on a digital T-level route. Marketing T-level is commencing from September 2025, so an ideal pair of hands for the marketing department. So yes, there are many opportunities. There are many more than that as well, that where a university could benefit across all T-levels.
That's really interesting. Actually, you brought up some areas there that we haven't even considered. I think catering and hospitality, we all have those departments, and to have T-level students in there, that's definitely. Just, because that's another area where sometimes we struggle to get the resource. So fantastic. Okay, Tom also asked what needs to be considered from a HR or people and culture point of view when offering T-levels.
Yeah, so there are a couple of mandatory requirements where the HR department will need to be involved. So, for example, informing the insurance company that you're hosting T-level placements. It's also really helpful if the HR department can provide the nominated T-level lead with the public employer liability insurance certificate or number, so that they can pass this on to the provider. Providers require this information as part of their quality checks. The university health and safety policy and safeguarding policy will also need to be sent to the provider as well. So, and the Institute have produced a suite of resources that are going to be available very soon. So watch this space to help the different relevant people within the Institute to really dig down into what is needed. HR can play a much larger role though, and if someone's willing to take it on. And I think this is a great professional development opportunity for somebody within HR to make them the designated T-level lead. So any questions can be directed to them. I understand this could be difficult, but it's another development opportunity for somebody within the university.
Yeah, I think it is a development opportunity. I think if anybody's already working with apprenticeships, it seems a natural feed into those apprenticeships. And so if you're already working with all those rules and regulations of apprenticeships, then T-levels might become, like me, more simple, but you can really see how that feed is in there. And at Cranfield, I'm actually passing the baton over to my colleague who's going to take over the development of our T-level placements in the university as a development opportunity for her. Now we've got the things set up in the first place, it seems more simple then to reiterate and redo those things again. So that's giving someone else an opportunity,
fantastic.
as well as the development opportunity for the staff that are engaged in the T-level placement itself.
So a question from Sarah Juggernaut Little from the Institute of Cancer Research. How did you or do you get teams to buy into the time investment of training a short-term member of staff?
There's some tips and tricks, I think. T-levels are still a bit of an unknown, and in the, in the university sector, obviously, perhaps they aren't really aware of T-levels. We're probably aware of A-levels, of that feed in, and T-levels are quite a new qualification. So it's finding people that are really passionate either about apprenticeships and bringing in early career talent. So I'd work with your talent teams. I'd work with the apprenticeship line managers that are already working with new talent coming into the organisation. But it's also about finding people that are really passionate, people that have perhaps done work experience placements in the past, people that have children that are of a T-level age, to really get them engaged in thinking, that this T-level placement, they can see how it helps their own children, let alone other around their local community. So it's finding that passion in people and finding those areas where skills are quite hard to find. So our technical areas, it's quite hard to get people with the skills that we need. Administration is another area where we find it's difficult to get people with those skills. So finding somebody with the passion to bridge those gaps, bridge those skills gaps, and hard to recruit roles is really helpful. It's also working with your senior leaders and talking to them about how important it is, because, for us, it's about our UN sustainability goals, for example. We're sustaining our technical workforce. We want to be an employer of choice, and we think we're, are an employer of choice. So therefore, our T-level students and early career are telling others about the fantastic opportunities at Cranfield. As Jane said, it's about the technician's commitment. So if you're working with the technician's commitment lead, it's a great thing to do. It gives you a really good evidence for your action plans. Anyone involved or interested in public engagement or outreach. So there's lots of stakeholders you can tap into, but really it's finding somebody that really wants to do it and has that passion to support the skills for the future.
Yeah, I think that's what I've seen when I've been speaking to different providers is the people who buy in are the people, like you say, who have a child of college age, who have gone to their open day and seen T-levels. Also somebody else who's come from that kind of vocational background, that route, they really want to give back to the community what they got as well. So I think a cheeky email sent off to your staff, who would like this opportunity. I think that's probably the best way to get engaged, and those of you who respond. So yeah,
it's enhancing people's knowledge of T-levels, isn't it? And I'm going to go to Hannah actually, because I think it'd be really helpful to ask Hannah why she wanted to be involved, and same question really to Jane, because as the head of technical services in the school that Terry's working, Hannah is the line manager. Hannah, why was it important to you to get involved in T-levels?
I mean, having done an apprenticeship myself, I know how important it is to get these experiences for life and career as well. So I just wanted to help, really. I thought I could do that because I know what it's like to be young and in a workplace that you have no idea, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you're doing a degree level apprenticeship at the moment as well. And do you find the skills that you've learned in managing, for example, mentoring, Terry, has helped you evidence KSBs for your apprenticeship?
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I would say mostly just personally, it's really helped me manage everything. You gain a lot of skills from managing a T-level placement.
Yeah, lovely.
Oh,
Thank-
that's fantastic.
And Jane, any comments from you in terms of the strategic, your head of technical services for School of Water, Energy and Environment, from that strategic point for you, why you were interested in hosting the placement?
I think because it's genuinely a good thing to do. Obviously, I could see very clearly how it would feed into our technician commitment action plan. But really, from perhaps a personal point of view, I can still remember being that young and having arguments actually with my parents because I got to 16. I didn't really want to do A levels. I wasn't going to university. I knew that right from the start. So actually, if T levels had been available when I was that age, that would have been perfect for me. So anything really to support these new qualifications, and to bring in those people who for A levels it's just not for them. It's a good thing to do. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane.
So we've got a question from Shona Iron from Lancaster University. How much resource does it require?
So we've probably answered some of this as we've gone through, but not much. It sounds more than it is. And I think my tip really is to plan for when you're going to do your T-level placement way in advance. We were talking about this with Hannah and Jane probably in June time of the year before Terry started with us in January. So it gave us a good 6 months really to get things in place. So it wasn't loads in one go. We weren't rushing. We just did a bit and we moved forward and it came at a pace that was right for us. So, excuse me, the tip is really to make sure that you're planning it for when it's good for you.
Yeah, definitely. It does take time, and that is something we're really keen to safeguard. So the Institute are producing resources which will be available soon, and they're going to be drip fed onto the website. We've got starter packs, we've got quick guides for help for staff getting involved. And when you see the bigger picture and you understand what it is going to do for technical careers and visibility and career development, it's a win-win situation. And I think the fact that it's so personally rewarding to impart your knowledge and skills on a younger generation, knowing that you're going to help their future and they're going to follow in your footsteps. I think that's, time might be a reason, it might be a resource that you use, but really the reward outweighs this time.
Yeah, I would just add that the resource ramps up really for the line manager and the host department once the T-level student's in place. I'm not going to be naive to say that there isn't some work involved in that, because Hannah and Jane have been integral in the success of Terry's placement, and it has took some time. But to set it up, if you do it over a period of time, it's quite easy and quite simple. So I have a question now from Graham McAllister of the University of York, and this is for both you, Joe, and probably Julie as well. Did you receive, it's a question about receiving guidance about what should be taught on the placement?
Yeah, so just to clear something up with the T-level placements, you are not teaching the student, you are training the student to develop skills and knowledge. So whilst there will be some knowledge transfer, obviously so they understand the science behind their duties, it is really important to look at them as an employee that has joined with a permanent contract, although there is no contract. So what duties would you give this staff member? What techniques could be demonstrated to them? What could they practice? What could they refine? Give them feedback and then carry out independently, like Terry alluded to before. So, for example, I was privileged to visit a T-level student a couple of weeks ago, and she was preparing tissue samples for embedding them in paraffin wax. So she dehydrated them and done the techniques before. She embedded them in the paraffin wax. She left them to solidify for 24 hours. And when she came into work the next day, she sat the microtone, she she sectioned it, she popped them onto a slide, labelled them up with some asset number, and then she actually delivered them to the pathologist as well. So to see the student, and this was her first year of placement, to see the students working so innately and working so well in such an experienced team, it was a real privilege. And again, each science lab's going to be different. So reflecting on what you do day to day, and definitely having some time put aside, really making sure you have time to brainstorm those activities. And that's something that the Institute are producing, are resources to help you deconstruct your duties and really link up to the specification to see what techniques would be relevant to them. And again, assessing the student's ability when they come in. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at their ability when they come in, and then you can advance those activities forward.
Yeah, I think you've actually answered the question there around, we certainly weren't around teaching.
Yeah.
We weren't told, Julie would say that, we weren't told what we needed to do. We were given some guidelines, but if we didn't cover them, it was about giving Terry the most meaningful placement we can, so that he can experience what it's like to work in a really operational laboratory.
I think we almost want this tick list, don't we, of things that they have to do. It doesn't exist.
No.
What happens is you find what skills are important in your laboratory and you train the student in those skills, and they will leave well developed and skilled. So, question from Andrew Hallam from University of Nottingham. How would T-levels benefit the faculty with regards to the amount of technical supervision required and training if there's no guarantee of keeping the applicant at the end of the process? So almost like we would still need to undertake an apprenticeship.
Yeah, I think we've probably answered this one again. I think Jane was very clear in that it's about putting skills back into the technical workforce wider than the university. Obviously, you've got an extra pair of hands for that period of time. They've become a really valued member of team. It can help you with your demographics as well. We're all wanting to ensure that we are having a good diversity of staff and students, and it helps with that, having younger people come on board. So I think really, whilst there's no guarantee at the end, if you can feed it into your apprenticeship programme, that's fantastic. If you can't, just be glad that the university has been able to support those skills into other sectors, and who knows, they might ping pong back, they might come back as a even more skilled technician in the future. So it's a wider remit than just what it's the benefit to your organisation.
Yeah, definitely.
Rajan Randi from University of Warwick. Is there any funding associated with the placement?
So no funding currently available. However, the costs that are incurred on the placement should be limited to consumables and PPE. So no, there's no funding available for placements.
And is there any appropriate pastoral care that's required, or is that provided by the school or college?
So pastoral care is the responsibility of the provider, not the host placement. We all have a duty of care, obviously, to all our employees, and there may be an occasion where you feel it is necessary to contact the provider and share with them an issue or a challenge, but it is for the provider to take this on and to manage that.
Okay, I think we're going to go to the questions that are in the chat now. So we've had quite a few coming in. So let's have a look at some of the questions. So how has Cranfield University adopted the rollout of T-level placements? Is this confined to just technical services, or is this programme university-wide? At the moment, we're just doing the science T-level because that's where we identified that we had a skills gap and we needed to bring in more skills, and that will feed nicely into our prospective apprenticeship vacancies that we may have in the future. But it's our passion really to make sure that we are utilising the T-levels as a way of finding those skills gaps. So we are going to be working with other partners, as I mentioned, in media and broadcasting here. Joe's already given me some thoughts today around hospitality and catering. Marketing coming in 2025 is really good to know, because we have large marketing departments that might benefit from that placement. So we don't have a framework or anything. We don't have a policy. We're doing this very light touch because that's really what T-levels are, because you've not got the responsibilities that go with an employee or a student. It's a really good way to get an insight of what are those skills that are needed for the future. So hopefully we'll have quite a few more here as the years go on, but we are doing it incrementally. What we've used the science T-level placement for is a pilot. It's worked incredibly well. So that gives us that case study to share with others as well. around taking on T-level placements in the future.
And scale up.
And scale up, of course, yeah. Okay. That's a question here for Julie around placement timing. We've got a question, how are the placements timed? Once per week, monthly, block release, for the full period of time? So how does MK College, with the placements that you have with all of your T-levels, did you want to share how they're sort of timed? What's the timing of them?
Yeah, with ours, the way we work at the moment, all hours are on day release, one day a week generally. We usually start them after the October half term for those that are in year one. That's just so that they get that sort of settling in period in college, get familiar with the work, with the college, and with the other students that will be their sort of co-students, as it were. And then they go on placement once a week, usually during term time, but they can go out of term time as well. And we do that on an individual basis as we work with the employers. We try where possible to meet the needs of the employer, but also to make sure that the student is in college when we need them to be in college to do the academic part, the academic study of their qualification.
Yeah, it's getting that balance, isn't it? And I know,
Yeah.
you know, MK College Group's been fantastic with us. Because to be able to give a meaningful placement, we wanted to have Terry for 2 days a week, because we felt with some of the experiments and the projects that Terry would be involved in, 1 day coming in just wouldn't be enough to give him that meaningful placement. So Terry's been coming in for 2 days a week, and Terry's been so enthused by it that he's actually coming in the holidays as well on placement to continue that placement through the Easter holidays, the half terms, and that's been fantastic because it's given Terry that continuity of learning. I would also say we were really lucky to be able to say when we wanted that placement. So Terry's in his first year, but came in January. So had some knowledge and skills and came with those for us in January, so that we could utilise those as we went through. So it's good to work really with your college partners to make sure that, you know, you get something that works for you as an employer as well, but also works for the college, because they do obviously have quite a lot of nuggets of knowledge to learn.
One of the resources that the Institute have produced as well is a planning considerations document, where the universities can, either in small silos, small teams, or in larger teams, can really plan what it is that they're going to do, and it brings up considerations, what fits best for you and your department. So, you know, 1 day a week might fit best, having a block placement at the beginning to really induct them in and make them useful for those 1 day a week, a block placement. And those conversations can then be flexible with the provider, so that the providers do have some teaching constraints, and some teachers might teach across different courses, or they might want them out on one particular day. But I think it's a really flexible conversation, and it has to work for both. So there's no answer of placement model, definite answer, and it's for you to work with the provider as well.
Absolutely. Okay, we have time for one last question, which is about, are there good links between T-levels and apprenticeships, allowing smooth progression, and would participation in a T-level at Cranfield offer an advantage for a prospective apprentice? So I'll answer this one. There is absolute links from a T-level to an apprenticeship. So in our example, Terry's doing a T-level, level 3 in science. It may be that we have a degree level laboratory scientist apprenticeship coming up in the future. And of course, Terry would be more than welcome to apply for that. In terms of advantage, obviously we have to be equitable. Other people and Terry's colleagues could apply for that vacancy when it comes along. But what the T-level gives is that Terry's already worked at Cranfield, so the examples in his interview would be very specific to Cranfield. So whilst it wouldn't necessarily give an advantage, because we would obviously follow our recruitment processes, the fact that Terry's already worked here, has worked with the team, and can give those real life examples of how he's honed his skills at Cranfield will be helpful for him in interview.
Yeah, and I think the T-level has been designed with the apprenticeship standards in mind as well. So if you go onto the IFATE website, there are progression profiles for for T-levels to show how they link directly into apprenticeship. So yeah, it's a big story in the news at the moment, all the apprenticeships. So it's something that a lot of work is going on in the background.
Okay, so that's the questions that we've got. And obviously, if you've got more, please send them in. Jo will answer those after the event.
A huge thank you from us at the Institute, and please visit our website and subscribe to the newsletter so you don't miss the launch of our new resources, and you'll find my direct email there as well, so please drop me an email, and also navigate the web pages to see the fantastic work that all my colleagues do every day at the Institute for technical teams across the UK. So thank you.
And thank you from Cranfield University. It's been delightful to have you join us today from our fantastic Grenville Turner studio. Hope you've enjoyed the webinar, and I hope that you do take T-levels and take them forward in your institutions. So goodbye from us.